Hello and welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, government targets end of February to conclude debt restructuring negotiations with commercial creditors. We shall be interrogating this further. Also, approximately 6 out of 10 Ghanaians do not save for retirement. We have more in a report plus a discussion on this for you. Also in this bulletin, Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union threatens to strike as it gives the National Petroleum Authority a month ultimatum to address its conditions of service after a year of agitation.
It's working seriously on it, yes, but we are timing them, or we are giving them some few months. I can tell you maybe ending of this month, if clearly we do not hear anything from MPA concerning our salary structure, which a committee has been formed.
We have details of these and many others lined up for you. Please be my guest. Thanks so much for your company. I am Pious, Kojo, Backah. We can now settle and look at our stories now. And government is hoping to conclude negotiations on debt restructuring with commercial creditors and Eurobond holders by the end of this month. Well, this is what Joy Business has picked up from persons with knowledge of the ongoing negotiations. My colleague Govt has more.
Government last month ended what can be described as the technical engagement with the Eurobond holders and commercial creditors in London. However, officials were tight-lipped about the outcome of that engagement. The Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had initially told Joy Business that government is looking at reaching a deal with the bilateral and commercial creditors at the end of March 2024 in terms of restructuring their debts. Government is also looking at about 40% cut on the principal and interest rate on these Eurobonds. However, it appears most of these bondholders are not in favor of what the Finance Minister had earlier proposed. But if government is not looking at ending these negotiations by the end of this month, then one can say the Finance Minister might be making some significant progress when it comes to the restructuring of these commercial debts as well as the bilateral creditors. It is believed that government needs to finalize these negotiations on time, as it could be a condition in passing the second review under the IMF program. Closing the deal on time, according to sources, may also help in the resumption of some projects that have stalled over the past year due to concerns expressed by some of the bilateral creditors.
All right, so let's analyze this further. And joining us via Zoom is economist Professor Lord Mensah for some perspectives on this matter. Thanks so much, Prof, and good to know you're on with us here on the marketplace. First off, we are learning that government is hoping to conclude negotiations on debt restructuring with commercial creditors and, of course, Eurobond holders by the end of this month. How does that come to you?
Yeah, so with the commercial creditors, I would advise that government shouldn't be too optimistic when it comes to setting up timelines. In a sense that, their debt structure is quite complex. Quite complex in a sense, these are, creditors that have lent to the country, but then they're also managing, diverse people's funds, including pensions and other things. So effectively, if you want to negotiate with them, you should remember the diversity of the interest parties involved, and they are the ones that are going to dictate what their negotiators are supposed to hold up with you. So effectively, the complexity in the structure of the, public debt, the commercial debt, may delay some of these negotiations. But then also let's look at, the interest, because of their diversity, some of them may want debt restructuring, others may not. And that can also prolong, the negotiations. So we shouldn't give ourselves, timelines that will be so much optimistic with that. Because the finance minister, his posture has always been, being optimistic and giving timelines that he hoped for. But then, remember, this is a negotiation, and you are going to engage other parties. You don't know what they're coming to the table with.
I guess cautiously. All right, you go ahead.
So, we shouldn't be too optimistic with the timings.
All right. So, to what extent do you think that the IMF's commitment to assist Ghana in reaching a deal with these commercial creditors will expedite processes for the debt restructuring?
It will give us that credibility because, if you look at the history, our public financial performance seem to be in line or seem to be good when we have a program with the IMF. And so if creditors will go by the history, I can say that, yes, indeed, the program we have will give us a leverage. But then we should also understand that the ability to pay, will play a major role. And so looking at our economic situation and the global economic structure, our ability to pay will be tied to how the global economy performs. And so if you're exporting a commodity, what are you going to rake in? What is the anticipation of the commodity market, revenue that you are likely to generate to pay your debt? And then also we look at the ability of the alternative investment of the, these investors. The last time I read from Reuters, I know the Feds are about to cut down interest rate. And so if they should go in that direction, then obviously it will also have impact on our negotiations because, holding up our debt, which comes with higher interest rate for some time, or going to have an investment in Americas where the rates are low, obviously you would like to hold up, our bonds. So that will also have impact on the negotiation. So it comes with a lot of indicators that the finance minister may have to deal with. And so the timelines, we shouldn't be so hopeful that in 1 month's time or by the end of the month, we're going to get, a deal with these external commercial creditors.
Very well. But in all of these, there are some who have criticized government's communication skills on the debt restructuring with the commercial creditors. Do you share the same concerns on the number of times they've missed out on dates of conclusions with these creditors? It appears we've lost Professor Mensah. We shall connect back to him and speak to him on the subject matter, which of course has to do with Ghana, hoping to conclude negotiations with commercial creditors by the end of this month. And we do know that by end of month, all fingers crossed, we should see the conclusion on the discussions with our commercial committees. And I understand Professor Mensah is back on to speak to us on that. So I was asking earlier about the communication skills government, tends to churn out when it appears to have discussions with negotiators or our commercial creditors on the conclusions of the deadlines for discussions. Rather unfortunate, we've lost him, I'm told. So we will continue, and of course, when we get him back, we shall bring him to speak to us on the subject matter. Now, approximately 6 out of 10 Ghanaians are not saving for retirement. That's according to 2023 Old Mutual Financial Services Monitor. Now, this is significantly higher amongst informal sector workers, younger and lower income earners. Here's more in this report.
The report also said only 18% are very confident that they have enough savings for retirement. Only 37% of respondents have started saving for retirement. Again, 7 out of 10 Ghanaians are hoping that their children may support them when they are old. There are no significant differences across age and income levels. Significantly, lower expectations amongst Ghanaians that the government will look after them when they are unable to support themselves. Meanwhile, consumers use a multitude of ways to save from formal to informal depending on needs. The top savings channels mentioned are the bank, mobile money, susu, or unbanked cash.
We've got to analyze this worrying trend, and joining us to do this is a financial analyst who's also the Chief Executive Officer of Dice Capital, Bernard Osei. Bernard, thanks so much for joining me on the marketplace. 6 out of 10 Ghanaians are not saving for retirement. How worrying or alarming is this to our financial system?
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for having me, Pious. Yes, it's quite worrying, and from my initial comment, I would say. But it could have even been worse, because we should also take into cognizance of the fact that people save from their disposable income. And for the last year and the last 2 years post-COVID, a lot of Ghanaians, especially those within the middle income bracket, have had their disposable income strongly diminished to a very lower margin, and hence the ability to save has become a problem, because you only save out of your disposable income. And when you don't have a lot of disposable income, you want to concentrate on the first things first. You look out of your shelter, what you will eat, food, and clothing. So once these things are catered for, and you are even struggling to look out for these 3 most important needs of every human being, for that matter, the last thing you want to think about is about the future. You want to take what you call control of the present, and make sure that once you cover the present, the future will definitely take care of itself. So I'm not surprised about the report, to be very honest with you. And like I said, it could have been worse. It is where we are because, for example, when you take Social Security and National Insurance Trust, there is a backing law that kind of criminalizes employers who refuses to pay and are sent to court, and you could even be put into prison. A lot of businesses are struggling to hold up in terms of paying their salaries and to meet their operational needs. So the recent report, even from the Senate, they indicate that the number of cases or the number of employers that they had to take them to court on the Saturday court cases had drastically increased by over 40%. So it tells you that employers and most organizations are struggling to keep their operational needs, yet alone to pay for Social Security. So the dynamics are a lot. So one, on the individual side, is disposable income, which has drastically diminished. And also on the organizational side, or that's the corporate side too, is also the fact that companies are struggling to meet their day-to-day obligations, yet alone to talk about pensions. Yeah.
All right, so if these issues you've enumerated are major reasons why we are seeing what we are recording now, we've got to address it. And how do we do that? Disposable income, or talk to our employer to increase our salaries?
Obviously, again, the depreciation of the city kind of also have affected us drastically. So our purchasing power has reduced. Cost of living has gone extremely higher. To have a bit of disposable income, you need to have a situation whereby your cost of living is lower. And when your cost of living is lower, then you have a bit of a disposable income to think about the future. So the best way in all of this is a two separate scenarios. Government should do whatever it takes to bring the cost of living down, i.e. electricity, water, the basic need. Rent is a big deal in this country. And I will tell you, Pious, about 60 to 70% of Ghanaians end up using all their money to pay rent. The big conversation that we haven't been able to resolve as a country is the fact that we continue to pay advance for rent, which is a killer. A young guy come from university, get employed, he start earning about 2,000 Ghana cedis. He wants to live on his own and start a family or begin a life. And he's been asked to dove as high as, let's say, 1,000 Ghana cedis a month for 24 months upfront before you can get an accommodation. These are These are things that affect the ordinary Ghanaian. These are things of economic nature that, as a country, we should take a second look at it and put in the right measures in place to make sure that we kind of solve the situation, especially when the laws of the country forbid that. But because of demand and supply, landlords and landladies are taking that opportunity to take advantage of the demand and supply and continue to do that. I believe that is where government comes in. I believe that's the role of government, to step into it and make sure that they kind of salvage Ghanaians. And I think the Vice President started a policy like that to spearhead that situation whereby people who are in the need to pay rent will not suffer. I think those are some of the policies that we should push as a country, and both on your side as a journalist and on all those of us who have the opportunity to speak on matters like this.
And that brings to sharp focus the purpose of the National Rent Control Program, which is in place as a policy measure to address some of these concerns when it comes to rent and what have you. Is that to suggest that it hasn't been effective as it would have?
At all. It hasn't been effective. And Pious, one of the things we are so good at in doing as a country is always coming up with the laws. I always say we have a lot of laws that we put in our statutes books, and the laws really, back, but it cannot bite. And once you have laws that can really back, and Parliament takes time and passes all those laws, but in reality on the ground, that is not what is happening. We go to work and we have employees come to us every day with rent issues, asking for salary advance to be able to pay for rent. And the annoying aspect is that most of these landlords are not asking for even a year. Many of them, for months, are asking for 2 years. In some scenarios of even whereby the person have already stayed even in the place for 5 years and 6 years. And it is assumed that the person has shown a bit of good faith, is a good tenant and all that. But they still go ahead to ask for 2 years when the rent is due and all that. And these are critical issues we need to take care of. So if I'm earning about 2,000 Ghanaian cedis and I've been asked to cough up that huge amount up front, the only option for me is to go for credit. And we know cost of credit is also on the high. So when I go for credit to show up on that need, that person need, because shelter is critical for every human being. You need a place to lay your head to have that kind of peace of mind. And once you don't have a place to lay your head, basically you don't have a life. So the only option is to go for a loan, which is also a killer. At the end of the day, I'll be paying interest on the loan and also a principal as well. And I will be left with nothing to save. So this is not rocket science. We all know the issues which are confronting us. And as an economy and as a country, we need to do better to save, especially the middle class, the young ones coming up. We need to do a lot to save them.
And Bernard, in as much as government has a greater role to play in all of these, as individual, what more can you also do, irrespective of the fact that you earn little?
There's little we could do. Trust me. We live in difficult times. Let's not try to be extremely modest or whatever. Yes, trust me. People have actually cut down the expenses of living. I think the only thing that comes to mind is like cut your coat according to your size. But trust me, we live in difficult times whereby even you can't even cut the coat to your size. The coat cannot even get to your waist, let alone to fit you. So it's quite tougher in terms of the living condition. And I think that on the side of it,
it appears we've lost Bernard Oseitu as well on this great topic we are discussing. Of course, he's made his point. Government has a major role to play in all of these. We shall connect back to him as and when we have him. But we've got to touch on this story. The Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union has given a month ultimatum to the National Petroleum Authority to address its condition of service. The union says the NPA has delayed with the implementation of a review of its salary structure after a year of embarking on a strike. National Chairman George Jonhunu says the union may be forced to embark on another strike if the NPA delays by reviewing its salary structure. He's been speaking to my colleague James Ishen.
It's a worry, and the public, the Ghanaian publics are not aware of this. So it is time for all of us to come clear. Once clean cooking is come to stay, yes, we are Ghanaians. If we don't do it, whom are we expecting to do it for us? We have to do it, okay, so that our next generation will also know that this is what we have let down for them.
Right. Now, let me come or zoom straight to your association. Somewhere last year, you raised a number of issues with some challenges you guys were facing. Have these issues been addressed?
I decided not to talk about that, but I can tell you clearly that none of our issues have been addressed. As I speak now, yes, it's the same. As we talk about the road network. Yes, absolutely. It's still the same. We talk about our condition of service. Yes, it's in the pipeline. MP is working seriously on it. Yes, but we are timing them, or we are giving them some few months. I can tell you maybe ending of this month, if clearly we do not hear anything from MPA concerning our salary structure, which a committee has been formed, okay, agreed, signed. We are only waiting for MPA for implementation. All right, and we don't know how many days or how many months do they want them to take before they implement our remuneration for us. So we are waiting patiently. So I would like to use this opportunity to inform the authorities that tanker drivers are ready to serve the nation. But if our salaries or what we are demanding has not come to our pocket, then they should call other authorities to be blamed.
Have you given them any timeline?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I cannot stand here and give them timeline. I'm not the only executive. I'm the national chairman, but I have a lot of people around me. So we need to go back to the table and think about it. So our letter will be going to MPA very soon as I speak to you.
In case they do not respond swiftly, would you guys embark on any demonstration or strike or something?
Clearly speaking, we will not demonstrate. Yes, for demonstration, when we demonstrate, what are we going to get about it? But if you are working and you are not paying us, the only thing we put our tools down. That's the only thing we can do.
Away from that, today on Let's Talk Tech, we shall be talking about the newly launched beta version of the Bank of Ghana database portal by the Central Bank. Now, the portal aims at providing a single environment for extracting and visualizing macroeconomic data. Now, the portal also helps to meet data request demands from the general public and support research work. Let's have a discussion, and of course, our tech analyst, Henry Kobler, lead for iSolve Africa, joins us via Zoom for that. Thanks so much, Henry, for your time here on the marketplace. Have you accessed the portal yet, and what do you make of it?
Thank you very much. So yes, I have accessed the portal. I think that it's a way to go. I mean, I've been personally impressed by how Bank of Ghana basically has jumped onto technology and is making use of technology. You generally don't have that coming from regulators within the space. And so seeing that Bank of Ghana basically is putting a lot of effort into making sure that it's making accessibility to technology, and it's making the general public have more access to kind of data, and also to be able to have a lot of engagement with them, I think is more impressive. I've personally been on the portal. I have seen that there are quite a number of sectors that have been enabled on the external sector, the physical sector, the monitoring sector. I mean, the real survey-based indicators are all in place on the platform, and it gives quite some level of data for general public. I think that it makes a good way where assessing macro data on the economy gives a lot of impression to almost all the sectors that would need such data in terms of research, and also to be able to have available data on the go.
Great. So what, in your view, will this upgrade do for persons seeking to source large volumes of data from the Bank of Ghana, you would say?
I think it cuts down on the level of request that is sent to Bank of Ghana generally. And so you having the data on your hand basically gives you a large access to the data that you could use for levels of surveys and research, and also to be able to make some level of decisions when it comes down to sectors within the financial control. So I basically think that it gives a more prominent because it's more interactive. That's the most impressive thing I think it is, and so it gives you a level of pointers. I'm yet to see if there are API controls to be able to pull such data and to be used in more intelligent softwares to make some level of market decisions that would help some businesses grow, and also to give some level of analytics to the analysts that are being in there. But generally, I think that is a way to go. This is basically the beta version, and so I'm sort of of expecting that there are quite a lot number of indicators that are going to be pushed on there for most of the market users to be able to have such data available.
Henry, how safe are these sites, and what can be done to reduce potential risks?
I think the Bank of Ghana relatively, I'm not saying that it's hosting it on its own service, but generally I think that they're having a lot of partnerships. I have seen the sandbox that was released by Bank of Ghana with some level of connection to tech companies. And so I'm basically coming to that understanding that there's a lot of collaboration with third-party users, third-party companies to build such platforms to be able to give such data and also to be able to receive more data from public. Generally, I'm sure the Bank of Ghana would have done a lot of due diligence in terms of jumping onto some of these platforms and being able to keep these data. Data in this day and age is gold. And so if we were having access to the data, generally, which you would have had to request and had to make available to the public, generally on the go, I think that it's a way to go for me. In terms of the access of how safe it is, I think that I'm sure that it should be in the right frame of pointers and due diligence from Bank of Ghana when they are jumping onto tech platforms.
Thank you very much. Henry Kobler, lead ISO of Africa, speaking to us on Let's Talk Tech on today's edition of the program. Now, before we go, as part of measures to improve the adoption of cleaner energy for household cooking, lecturer of applied economics at the University of Environment and Sustainable Development, Somenya Kwabena Ejain Mante, is calling for more education for Ghanaians on the use of cleaner energy. He said the transition to cleaner cooking energy is key to economic growth. He spoke to Joy Business at a research and policy engagement forum.
The research being conducted by researchers from the University of Environment and Sustainable Development and the Future Africa Institute at the University of Pretoria, South Africa, focuses on the energy poverty situation in Ghana and how to improve adoption of cleaner energy for household cooking.
Because we find that if people are environmentally aware, they make the right decisions. If people are socialized into accepting clean energy, they take those decisions when they are adults. We are asking that these issues should go into the curriculum. Okay, how we teach the children of today, we should teach them these issues about climate change, about sustainability. And to be fair, NACA is in this forum. They say some of these issues are there, but they admit that more needs to be done. They admit that teachers need better support to be able to teach these issues of sustainability, of global citizenship, and so on. So our point to NACA is we want this to feature heavily in the school curriculum, because that's where we train the young ones so that they grow up and they know these things already. But even for those who are already out of school, for whom NACA's work does not necessarily reach, we have the Information Services Department, we have the NCC, who can also talk to us or educate the public on our environmental duty.
Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union's national organizer George Yawonu said such project is key to supporting their operations.
I want to urge the authorities, especially the researchers, that they must move out, go to the refineries, because we, the tanker drivers, we pick finished product from the refinery and make sure the product that comes out from the refinery to the market for the public to use should be clean before the domestics also use the clean cooking. You get a point. So,
and that's how we conclude Marketplace for today. I am Pious, Kojo Backah. For more stories, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Do enjoy your afternoon. See you same time tomorrow. Bye.